Morning.
Morning.
How's everybody doing? Awesome. Just a second. I was writing this, and this past 2 days I've been writing this and been thinking about it and whatnot. And actually, give me just a second. I might actually sort of go out. That was really loud. You're one of those that sit just a little bit differently. Perfect. I'll put this one aside and this up here. Can everybody see this?
Yeah.
Okay, what if I do this?
No.
No. Yeah, but you can hear that. All right. Let's do this. Stay. Perfect. All right. So yeah, I was coming in this morning, and over the past few days, we've been thinking about the sermon, and talking about the fight for joy. I feel like the world we live in is it's a messed up, screwed up world, right? We can all recognize that. It's
Broken.
It's broken, yeah. Amen. And I think we're always trying to find a way to be joyful. Constantly. Me and my father and my mother, we run a shop called Antiques and More in Statham. And the reason we actually created the store, the reason we founded this store, was because we wanted to be dealers in a store. We could not find a single place that we felt comfortable being in. Every place we went into, we walked in, and there was somebody behind the desk. They wouldn't say hey. And we walked in, we almost felt attacked. I know it sounds weird, but it felt that way. And it wasn't for us. So we said, okay, you know what? We're going to create our own store. We're going to do things a little differently, though. And when you walk in, you get a, hey, welcome to Antiques and More. We've got free peppermint here on the counter, and we've also got free water in the cooler. And the whole reason is to give joy to others. One of my favorite things my dad says, I promise this is not like I'm trying to sell you Antiques and More. I promise I'm not trying to do that. Right? So, just stick with it, though. One of my favorite things my dad says, he always comes up, or whenever somebody comes up, he always says, hey, they'll grab like one peppermint or something. And he'll say, no, he said, as a kid, they wouldn't let you have more than one. He said, here at Antiques and More, you can have a handful. And I think for a second, though, it takes you back. It takes you back to when you were a kid. And the fact, like, you're getting more than one peppermint. It's like trick or treat. What do? We go in, just put a big hand in there and take out a bunch of candy, throw it into our bag. And like, we find joy in that. And our whole entire life, we're trying to find joy. This morning on the radio, one more story and I'll try to get going here. I was listening to Caleb on the way up here, and a guy had called in, and he said, I need to tell you a story. I said, okay, tell us. His wife had just left him 2 days ago. First off, that had to hurt, right? It was just him and 3 girls. His daughter, of course. The wife had just completely left. Taking the money out of the savings account, out of the banking account, whatever it was, took all of it. Took everything from him. And he said, you know what? I have no choice but to rely on God. Isn't that something? I have to. I have no choice. And then sure enough, blessings, miracles started showing up and happening. He was getting checks in the mail. He talked to his boss was willing to help him out. But all because, rather than saying, okay, now it's my job, I have to fix this. I have to do it all. He said, no, I've got to rely on God. So the fight for joy. Does everybody have one of these? Before we move on. So last night, make sure everybody has it. Everybody's got a pen too, right? Okay. So last night, this side over here is for notes. It doesn't say it because last night I was typing this. I was trying to make this, right, and I made like 50 of them before my girlfriend approved of them. And one of them had notes up here at the top, and she's like, "You've got to have better handwriting than that." And I was like, "No, that's the best I have." So we decided to make it look a little better, and we're going to leave it blank. This side right here is for notes, okay? You have two choices with that. So remember we're talking about like childlike joy and whatnot. If you want to draw, this is the time to draw. I'm going to have a few drawings up here, my own. They're not going to look good. Just going to put that out there. They're going to look horrible, but it's going to be okay. So you can draw on this side, you can draw on the back. Make sure though you leave at least, I would say about this much at the bottom. I have something, a diagram that I want to give you that not only shows joy and how to receive it and how to continuously live that type of life, a joyful life, but it also is a way to share the gospel. So it's a tool for you in the future. All right. Real quick, I want to make sure I'm not wasting your time. Do you know anybody, or do you personally deal with not being joyful sometimes? Yeah? So, I'm not wasting your time, right? This is something that is a problem. I feel like it is, but yeah, I like to give that question because maybe this is not for you, and that's okay. But maybe it's for somebody sitting beside you, or maybe it's for your coworker, maybe it's for your children, maybe it's for whoever, right? And so I want to make sure I'm not wasting your time now. Let's move to the scripture. Philippians is one of my favorite books of the Bible. It's written by Paul. And he's writing this from a jail cell. So the first picture I want to draw, this is a little reminder, is Paul. This is going to be, well, that was a horrible line. Oh. All right, this is going to be my jail. We will have Paul. I know, right? That's Paul, is it not? That's perfect. I don't know what happened there, but anyways. He doesn't have ears, but he is smiling. That's very important. All right.
You gotta put ears on him, like him that has ears here.
Well, all right, look now. All right, we're just gonna move on. All right. So that's Paul. He's in a jail, and this is what I think is amazing. This dude has something figured out. Let's go ahead. Let's read. Let's see, Philippians 4, verses 11 to 13. I am not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. I know what is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do everything through Him who gives me strength. We got something figured out, guys. This dude is in jail. I mean, I'm not going to ask you if you've been in jail, but if you have, I doubt it was a joyful experience. Let's just be honest, right? Like, I doubt you're going, yeah, I'm in jail! No, nobody does that. Nobody. You know? And here's Paul, though, and he's saying, I'm good, you guys. It's okay. I know what it is to really be in, what hunger really means. I know what it means to be thirsty. I know all these things. But what I love is, it's not just those things, right? It's more than that. He himself is joyful. He talks about being content. And see, I think that he finds his joy in his contentment. I want to try to prove that to you. You see, unlike the rest of the world, he doesn't rely on how you jaded last night, football game. Right? He doesn't rely on that. He doesn't rely on having a job. He doesn't rely on having a girlfriend or a wife. He doesn't rely on having children. He does not rely on what money is in his bank account. Paul is content, and in his contentment he finds joy. But how? You see, we're taught to never be content. You can always be faster, stronger, richer, slimmer, more well-known, better looking, happier, right? That's what we're taught, is that we can be all these things, and we can continue to strive to not be content, to not be mediocre. The truth is, yes, You can have all of that. But lots of times it's selfish. And at what cost? At what cost can you have all of these things? Here's where it gets tricky. You might be able to get more fit. But in doing that, what time are you taking away from working? Therefore, your money drops, right? Okay, well, let's focus on, I'm only going to work out and I'm only going to make money. That's not exactly a happy life. I don't want to work my whole entire life off, right? What about the relationships that you could sacrifice during that time? Is that joy? No. See, Paul is content. He has come to realize he's being content in what Jesus did. And you could probably, this is a pretty easy one, I would say. In fact, if you have not seen this, then you're probably blind. We'll make it a little darker so you can see it really well. This is a very simple one, right? This is just the cross. See, Paul realized what Jesus did. Jesus had sacrificed his own life so that we could have this joy, this contentment. This doesn't mean you have to be mediocre. You can work on those things, of course, right? I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is he found his joy in putting God first. He found his contentment in putting God as number one in his life, as the only thing that truly mattered above all else was his service to God. And I don't necessarily mean going to South Carolina or North Carolina for the weekend. Don't mean that service. I mean in everything that he did, he found joy. In every moment, he found an opportunity to share God with someone. Paul was so good about this. He said, I'm putting God first, and in doing this, the rest of my life will fall together. If I'm living for God first, he's number one above all else, truly. Above all else. Above all else. All right, I just have to make sure. Right?
Just a big angel.
I know, right? Oh, man. All right. So above all else, right? Like he put God number one. He said, yes, this is it. This is the peak of everything, is here. And the rest falls in line afterwards. He didn't say it was easy. He didn't say it was easy. But he knew what was most important. And in that, he found his joy. So this is the big diagram that I want to share with you. It's a 3-part diagram. So what I want you to do is I want you to make 3 circles. We'll do one here, and then one here.
This is the bottom of the page?
Yes. Or on the back if you want to make it bigger. What's going to happen is it's going to be arrows pointing to each of these. Notice how they're all going in one direction. It's a circle, right? Circle of life, so to speak. So using this diagram, we'll probably use, you can share lots of many things in this. The first one, though, I want to go ahead and get out, is I want to share joy. See, this right here, this one right here, I'm going to put a W in there. You can make a little, let's see, just put it in there. All right. This is going to represent the world, okay? I'm going to draw little islands, you know, whatever that means. Hopefully there's somebody that can draw better than I can. What we're going to do is we're going to put little curly cues. You know, because if you didn't know that, that's a new thing. The world has curly cues coming off of it. No. Moving on. Okay. So this is the world we live in, right? It's a hairy world, right? Yeah. And what we're representing here is the spring. And this is what the world does to us, right? spring back and forth from the earth. In the sense of the earth gives us a high of some sort. Whether it is drugs, whether it is alcohol, whether it is sex, whether it is, you name it, you put it there, whether it's wants and needs, buying a new car, it feels good, right? Then all of a sudden you realize, oh, I've got, $10 trillion in debt I've got to pay off. There's so many things. This is what the world does. Consistently, without fault, or without cease. It does this. It continues to bounce us. We get stuck in almost a loop, continual loop that never stops. Our whole entire life is filled with this. So we need something to break it, right? I'm going to put the cross first in the bottom. And I'd like you to point arrows up, arrows down. This represents many things. But most of all, it represents Jesus. See, the thing is, I know you know this stuff, okay? This is not anything new. It's just another way to see it. See, Jesus died on the cross for us, right? And he was buried and raised in how many days? 3, yeah, right. All right, so this happened, and what we must do, though, is to get from here to here, I have to do this little number. This is what Paul realized. He said, if I want joy, he said, I can be baptized, I can be saved. He said, but if I want to find joy, raise up higher. If I want to find joy, I have to make Jesus the king of my life. Put him first above all else. Make him Lord. And in doing so, we get to the next step, which is, now I can't see what I'm drawing. Okay, back up. Oh, I saw that. It's still pretty bad, but you get the point. It's a heart. But I want you to write up top here. Okay, look at this. Oh, that's really bad. Still pretty bad, but All right. God's plan. This is where we get to next. God's plan. And this is the awesome part. Remember the fruits of the Spirit we talked about a while back? Remember all of that? All the joy, peace, happiness, kindness, goodness. I can't remember all of them. I should get to that in a second. But this is where we find all that, right? Is God's plan. But first, and this is where we find the joy, we have to make Jesus number one. And we're so reluctant to do that. I know I probably said that 100 times this morning. But it's such a serious point. We just miss it. We put so many things above God. And yet we wonder why we can't always be happy. Why we can't always find joy in everything we do. We refuse to put Jesus, God, as number one. We're okay with number 2, number 3. But number 1, priority number 1 is Jesus. With that, we get to God's plan. Now, for demonstrations later on in life, when you use this, on this little line right here, I didn't make enough room. Oh, my goodness. The 5th grader wrote this.
Smarter than a 5th grader?
No, no, I am not. Sin. God's plan, he knew all this was going to happen, right? He said, you're going to make mistakes. That's free will, right? And that's where the whole sin thing came into the world. So it's a loop, just like this. Really where you would start is right here, God's plan. God's plan was perfect, holy, and righteous. He had everything going for us. In using free will, we made a mistake. It's just a fact. We made a mistake. We chose something different than God. Introducing sin into the world. So now we're stuck in this loop. This little bouncy thing, right? We're always wanting things like that. Looking for other people's stuff. We continue to sin, and it's this loop. Gets us high, drops us, gets us high, drops us. Then moves in, say, okay, we have to make a choice. Right now, we have to make a choice. We know what Jesus did. He died on the cross, he was buried, and he rose in 3 days. But without this part, without that crown, it doesn't matter. You have to put him number one to give back to God's plan, his first original plan. And this is a cycle you'll probably use a lot in life. You'll constantly fall. It happens. We're human, right? Adam and Eve did it once. We're probably going to do it a couple hundred times. Or a million. But point being, it never stops. That's what I love about this. There is no break in any of these lines. This is a cycle that continues to happen. But God's always there. And every time we think that he steps away from us, it's just not true. We're just somewhere over here and not over here. So I'm going to leave that up here. But I'm going to draw up here at the top. Get back to the sermon for a minute. Yeah, okay, that's really small. Looks like a bowling ball. We're going to pretend like those are grapes, okay?
Grapes.
They're grapes. Just for the, all right. Yeah, so those are grapes at the very, very top. And this is where we have to remember, okay? When we get back to this point, hopefully stay a lot longer than not. Have to remember, just like a superhero, just like anybody in the Bible, they had to learn how to use the fruits of the Spirit. They had to learn where it manifested in life. And a lot of that takes practice. Remember when Spider-Man first got his powers? I'll try to nerd out for a second here. When he first got his powers, he had no idea what he was doing. I think he like ripped a doorknob off or something. Scared his aunt like half to death. Went up a wall, fell off the wall. I mean, all these things, like, he had no idea how to control his powers. And the thing is, we don't have that type of power, right? But we can be in charge of our joy, our peace, our happiness. In fact, I'm just going to flip over there real quick and read those. All right, Galatians 5, 22 to 23. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Guys, if we want joy, we got to put God first. If you want to win this fight, you have to put him first. I know that's hard. I fight that every day. My parents fight that. Everybody around me fights that. I know you do too. Some people be too prideful to admit it, but it's true. It's a fight. Every single day we step into a ring and we fight. It's part of life. But just remember, no matter what, God's plan is still in effect. We just have to get to him. Just search out and reach for it. He is there. I want to charge you with something this week, though. I want you to learn what power you have. How you can affect your joy, your peace, just by making that choice and saying, nope, I'm putting God first. He says I have joy, I have joy. And it might not feel like it at the moment, but we have to be willing to fight this. I spoke enough. Want to pray? I think we'll close this out, and Ben will come back up and do that thing. Sound good? Awesome. Let's pray. God, thank you. What an amazing life you've given us to live. Yes, there's trouble, like anything else. But you are amazing. Father, we know your plan is always in existence and it's always working. Lord, I pray that today we would continue to move towards you, get closer and closer and further, and make you number one above all else. We love you, we thank you, and we praise you. In Jesus Christ, I pray. Amen.